Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 3 2018 NFL predictions. Well, for the Fanatic this week, I was really hoping to have a bounce-back type week for my predictions. However, as typical the NFL season goes, it's so unpredictable, it's so sudden, and you have so many changes that bounce back week did not happen, and I had more of the same results both against the spread and straight up. So against the spread this week so far, I am 7-8 against the spread, and straight up I am 7-7-1. And for the first time since 1971, there were 2 consecutive weeks to start the season with ties. I hate that there's been that many ties. I hate that it keeps happening that way. But, that's kind of the rules of football. Honestly, I wish the NFL took the college rule of overtime, and how that was is basically everybody goes until somebody wins, but instead of having it on the 25-yard line, such as they do in college, I wish they would kick off, and then you would have to earn the yards. But if both teams make field goals or both teams miss, you get another possession. You keep going until somebody wins. But yeah, so I am 7-7-1 straight up this week, and I'm going to remind everybody I am taking the Bears tonight to beat Seattle, and I will still take it with the 4.5 points. It's been updated with the spread, so there's that. And now overall for the year against the spread, I am now 13-17-1 against the spread, which equals up to 43%. And straight up, I am 15-14-2. I think this is the first year, the first time in 2 years that I've had 2 ties on my record. 15-14-2 straight up. So obviously through the first 2 weeks, not the best records, and I apologize for anybody out there that takes my picks, especially my bet lines, to heart. I've probably lost a little bit of money, so I apologize for that. But now, with kind of going into the third week, knowing what injuries there are, knowing what consistencies you can see, I'm kind of feeling more confident in my picks. And hopefully this week, third time's a charm, I will do a lot better this week for everybody out there. But I am just going to go straight into my picks, and here we go. So, this Thursday, when the 1-1 New York Jets go to the 0-1-1 Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Browns are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Jets here, +3, and the New York Jets straight up. Then on Sunday, when the 1-1 New Orleans Saints go to the 1-1 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Atlanta Falcons here, -3, and Atlanta straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-1 San Francisco 49ers go to the 2-0 Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-point favorites in this game. I like San Francisco here, +6, but though Kansas City straight up. Then the next game, when the 0-2 Oakland Raiders go to the 2-0 Miami Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Miami Dolphins here, -3, and Miami straight up. Then the next game, with the biggest spread of the year so far, the 0-2 Buffalo Bills go to the 1-0-1 Minnesota Vikings. The Buffalo Bills are 16.5-point underdogs in this game against the Vikings. I am taking those points. That is way too much from what I saw out of Josh Allen. Remember, they only lost to the Chargers by 11, so I know the Vikings are angry. I know the Vikings are probably more talented defensively. They may screw up, but that's too many points for me to put in Buffalo, and I saw enough improvement out of them to get them those points. So I'm going to take Buffalo here, +16.5, but Minnesota straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-1 Indianapolis Colts go to the 1-1 Philadelphia Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles are 6-point favorites in this game. I like the Philadelphia Eagles here, -6, and Philadelphia straight up. And then the next game, when the 1-0-1 Green Bay Packers go to the 1-1 Washington Redskins, the Green Bay Packers are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Green Bay Packers here, -3, and Green Bay straight up. The next game, when the 2-0 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 1-1 Carolina Panthers, the Carolina Panthers are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Cincinnati here, +3, and Cincinnati for the upset win straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-1 Tennessee Titans go to 2-0 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee here, +6.5, but I'm going to take Jacksonville straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-0 Denver Broncos go to the 1-1 Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore here straight up, but I'm taking Denver +5. Then the next game, when the 0-2 New York Giants go to the 0-2 Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 6-point favorites in this game. I like the Houston Texans here -6, and the Houston Texans straight up. And then the next game, in the Battle of Los Angeles, somebody from Los Angeles will win this weekend when the 1-1 Los Angeles Chargers go to the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams. The LA Rams are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Rams here -6.5, and the LA Rams straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-1 or 0-2 Chicago Bears go to the 0-2 Arizona Cardinals. The Chicago Bears are 4-point favorites in this game. I like Chicago here -4, and Chicago straight up. Then the next game, when the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys go to the 0-2 or 1-1 Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Dallas here +3 against the spread, and Dallas straight up. Then the Sunday night game, when the 1-1 New England Patriots go to the 0-2 Detroit Lions. The New England Patriots are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England here -6.5, and New England straight up. And then in the Monday night game, when the 0-1 Pittsburgh Steelers go to the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tampa Bay here +2.5, and Tampa Bay for the upset straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Jets going to Cleveland. This is a weird game for me. Because the Jets, after all the fanfare, after how successful they were in Week 1, fundamentally from Sam Darnold to the running game of Crowell and Powell, to Quincy and Nunwa, to the defense, to the special teams, they did the Jets-type things. Shout out to Logan Schiff. Sorry, buddy. But they did the Jets-type thing and laid a huge egg against the Miami team that is probably the most surprising 2-0 team out of all the undefeated teams left, most people would say. But they laid an egg. And, I'm going to congratulate Sam Darnold. He became the youngest player to pass for 300 yards in a game. And I know they said, I forget the quarterback who it was, but it was Judy something. So he's the youngest quarterback to pass for 300 yards in a game. And the Jets' offense, it looked stagnant. It looked weak. It didn't look as effective. They couldn't convert as many. And that interception through the middle of the first, quarter when that happened for Sam Darnold, that was a killer that basically the Dolphins capitalized on and continued that momentum. But with all that being said about the Jets, and they kind of had their ups and downs, but Bob Howell did score a touchdown to keep it open late. They're going up against the Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Jinxes, the Cleveland, walked under a ladder, black-catted, bad luck Browns. Like, they find new ways to blow people's minds, especially their fans, and lose games. They're competing against Drew Brees and one of the hottest offenses in the NFL. Just a week before, put up 40 points, and through about 75% of the game, had held them to about 3 points. Held them to 3 points. That offense the week before put up 40. And yet, Tyrod Taylor throws a tough interception to, I believe it was Lattimore who got it, and then they were able to score. And then Tyrod Taylor on a beautiful deep ball throw, just out of dumb luck, finds Antonio Callaway into the end zone to tie the game. But Zane Gonzalez, that's the man that Cleveland is asking, and they're probably going to get rid of him from what I've heard. Zane Gonzalez is the man that is on Cleveland's radar today because he went 2 of 4 on extra points, and I believe he only made 1 of 3 field goals. Those 8 points were the difference in that game. They lost by 3. They could have won by 5, and New Orleans probably would have never had a shot. But that is the man that cost the Browns that game. They are on an 18-game losing streak, and they are on a 19-game non-winning streak. And I know what people are going to say, well, technically they're on a 1-game losing streak. No, they're not. They didn't win the game, so the losing streak is still intact. It's just 1 game lower. They're on a 19-game non-winning streak. They're on an 18-game losing streak. That counts. Okay, the tie, the tie's a tie, so it's neutral. So you can go either way. Nothing bad's gonna happen. But the weird part is this is a Thursday night game, and I looked at the record. Since 2006, when they started this, the road teams are about 20 games under 500 since they played these games. And this was, I remember last year when the Browns were going through this run, this was the one game everybody thought the Browns could win. And if you really look at the Browns, they played the two most complete games in the Hugh Jackson era going up against this Jets team. The Jets are young, they don't have that much time. They're going into a rough environment that, going into Cleveland who are desperate for a win, they're going to try to confuse the rookie quarterback. But with everything that goes on, it's got it's like Jets bad luck or Browns bad luck. I'm going to trust the Jets bad luck here. Because at least I found out the Jets could win. And at least the Lions played that, hey, the Jets did a pretty good job. Against a decent-looking Detroit team. Would I be surprised if Cleveland won this game? No. Because like I said, this is like the one chance I feel like for the Browns that they have a legitimate chance. It's a short week. Tyrod Taylor played a much more efficient game. Chubb and Hyde played really well. And that defense can cause a lot of havoc to the Jets offense, especially with Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Joe Sherbert, Christian Kirksey, all those guys. They can create enough havoc that they can cause a couple turnovers to get them to the advantage. But with how the Browns have been playing, with how the Browns have been finding new ways to lose games, I just can't take the Browns. Okay? This may be, Hugh Jackson's only win for this year and his only win in 3 years before he gets fired. But I just can't trust it. I'm going to take the Jets here. I've been more impressed with the Jets. I feel like, for me, New York, they look more confident. Even with the loss, they weren't all down. And that confidence that the Jets have is the biggest reason why I'm taking them over the Browns. Because even though the Browns, and also, by the way, the Browns cut Josh Gordon, I applaud the Browns for doing that because I thought it was a long time coming for the multiple-time drug policy offender, the guy that got in DWI, a guy that's had drug problems and just a lot of issues going on now. And honestly, I'll tell you, I don't see why there wasn't any substance abuse involved with Josh Gordon. Because you can't tell me that the fact that he tweaked his hamstring at a photo shoot was the biggest reason why he got cut. If the Browns were able to deal with all that other crap, all the drug offenses, the DWIs, all the, stuff that he had gone through, and you're telling me that just a tweaked hamstring on a photo shoot was the straw that broke your camel's back? No. You're not getting that from me. There had to be some substance in there. And you know what? Josh will probably get a job by the end of today. Actually, probably within the next hour or so from the time I'm recording this video, because there are multiple teams that have been trying to trade for him. But I think that loss coming off that short a week, I think the Browns are just too discombobulated to try to beat this Jets team that has a little bit more momentum going for them. So that's why I like the New York Jets here, +3. And the New York Jets straight up. The next game, Atlanta over the Saints. This is one of those games where Atlanta, for the first time in the Steve Sarkisian era, they looked competent offensively, especially in the red zone. Marvin Hall caught a touchdown in the red zone. Matt Ryan threw to Austin Hooper in the red zone. What a rarity to see Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian throw to a tight end in this offense. Matt Ryan ran for 2 touchdowns himself, and the offense looked as effective as it's been in a very long time. Also, I was impressed with Telvin Coleman, who is running in place for Devontae Freeman. And there's just a part of me with the Falcons that, they don't have Keanu, they don't have Dion, and they have some other, and they don't have Devontae Freeman. I know those injuries may catch up to them. But at least what I've seen out of the Falcons is a more consistent competitive game out of both their opponents, knowing that they can stop a Saints offense and a Saints defense that really has been Jekyll and Hyde the last 2 weeks. Like, the Saints 1 week looked like the old Saints from 2012 to 2016, that they can put up points against anybody, but they can't stop anybody. But then this past Sunday, they're in a dogfight defensively with the Browns. with the Browns, and the Browns were being the more effective team, 80 to 85% of that game. If it wasn't for Zane Gonzalez, they probably should be 0-2, just like they were back in 2014. And that's the thing for me, is that the Falcons have shown to be more consistent. The Saints may be able to capitalize on these injuries, with the offense they have, but I just can't trust the Saints' consistency, because honestly, I don't know if they're going to give up 30-plus points to the Atlanta Falcons, or, will Sark go back into his mode and go back into a, old-school defensive game. That's what I've seen out of the Saints' defense so far. And Drew Brees. But with that being said, I've been more impressed with Atlanta. They've consistently been in competitive games, and for the most part, they were taking care of Carolina in a good way. And they're at home, so that helps as well. If New Orleans won the game, would I be surprised? No, because, this time last year, week 3, they had their big game against a division rival on the road and pulled off a big win. But going into Carolina, facing that offense and team is different than playing Atlanta, who has a much more complete offense around them, and maybe they can take the confidence of what they did, especially with Matt Ryan taking over, and parlay that into a game against a Saints team that you really don't know who you're going to see through the first 2 weeks. You could see the 40-point team that put up a lot of points but couldn't stop anybody, or the team that couldn't score anything but had a stout enough defense to be competitive. If I am New Orleans, I'm hoping for the latter, because I feel like if you're going to ask Drew Brees or Matt Ryan to make a bigger play in a close defensive game, Drew Brees will be able to make that. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be more of an offensive game, and I'll take the Atlanta Falcons at home with their offense loaded in a shootout like that at home. So that's why I like Atlanta here -3, and Atlanta straight up. The next game, Kansas City over the Niners. This is one of those games where San Francisco, they played pretty solid. I'll put it that way. They played pretty solid. I want to congratulate Matt Breida for a 66-yard touchdown run. It is the longest touchdown run by a Niner since Frank Gore's 80-yard run in 2009. And also, it was just with the Niners, they played a they played a solid game. Jimmy Garoppolo improved a bit. He didn't throw the 3 interceptions. He could have thrown the 1 interception that could have changed the game for the Lions, but that got ruled back because of a holding penalty. But I thought the Niners did a pretty solid job all around. They were able to move the ball pretty effectively against the Lions, and they were able to make stops when they had to. But you also kind of realize that Jimmy Garoppolo, he loves his tight ends. He is a middle seam guy. George Kittle, Breida, a lot of those plays have been to the middle of the field guys, and just it was just a fundamental, nice solid win, and the Niners were able to hold on. But I'm taking the Chiefs here because Patrick Mahomes, through the first 2 weeks, has thrown the most touchdown passes in NFL history through 2 games. And through 3 games, I think they also said that he's thrown the most passes in 3 games in NFL history to start a career. That Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes, I can see why they drafted him, and I can see Andy Reid being very effective with him. Because you're looking at a Chiefs offense now with how he throws the football. You got maybe one of the most complete offenses in the NFL with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins on the outside. You got Travis Kelce in the middle. You got Chris Conley and DeAnthony Thomas helping in the slot receivers. You got Kareem Hunt. You have a pretty solid offensive line that can be effective enough, and Mahomes has some mobility himself. But the reason why I'm taking the Chiefs is the Chiefs have been probably the most consistent offensive force in the NFL. And, I know the problem, for people that are going to probably take the Niners is you're going to look at the Chiefs' defense, which is giving up 28 points to San Francisco, or to the Los Angeles Chargers, and they gave up 37 to Pittsburgh. So if you do the math, that is 65 points. So that is 32.5 points per game this Chiefs defense is giving up. But I just feel like, again, if you're going to put this kind of offense at home for Jimmy Garoppolo in a much more different environment, it's going to be outdoors in the middle, in the middle of the country. There's no domed roof like in Minnesota. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes in this offense to continue to roll. I think that the Chiefs' confidence is continuing to gain, especially beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, something they hadn't done for the first time since December of 1986. And I just have that confidence in this team, just seeing them through the first two games, to be able to outshoot the Niners. Do I think the Niners will put up points? Absolutely. And that's why I have the Niners +6. Because I don't think, that game is going to be, that much of a blowout for either side. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at offenses, I feel like the Chiefs have more of a complete offense. They have more of a, efficient offense. Because remember, Patrick Mahomes only threw 28 passes yesterday and threw 6 touchdowns. He had more touchdowns than incompletions yesterday. And with that kind of efficient offense going against the San Francisco team that is kind of a weird balance of trying to grow a defense. They have some pretty good defensive players on their side with Buckner and Solomon Thomas. And you have... they traded Eli Harold, I'm sorry. They have Cassius Marsh. They have Tart. They have Sherman on there. They have Witherspoon. They have a decent defense. But if you're going to take Mahomes in that offense against Garoppolo in that defense, I'll take the Chiefs in this one because I've been more impressed offensively with the Chiefs. They're going to be at home, and I feel like this is going to be another high-scoring game. And high-scoring games, I'll take the more efficient offense in Kansas City over the solid but mistake-prone Niner offense. So that's why I like Kansas City or straight up, but San Francisco +6. The next game, the Dolphins over the Raiders. This is one of those games that the most unassuming 2-0 team in the NFL right now are the Miami Dolphins. That is a fact. The Miami Dolphins are first place in the AFC East, which is very surprising to say, but the Dolphins have played decent football. Offensively, they don't really throw the ball that much. They've had the fewest passing attempts, and they're 28th in passing yards. But at least with their running game, they've been able to play really good run. They've had a really good run game. They've had the 4th most rushing attempts, and I believe the 4th most rushing yards in the league so far, which has been really good. And their defense is 3rd most in forcing turnovers and 4th in points, and I think 6th in yards, or the other way around. But this Dolphins team has done a nice, solid job the first 2 weeks. I believe some of that is the competition in playing good football. And Ryan Tannehill is proving to the Dolphins and to Adam Gase that Ryan Tannehill, with this team, can get the Dolphins enough to keep Adam Gase's job and for Ryan Tannehill to keep his job to go into next year. They're playing an Oakland team that they're not really going to be able to generate a pass rush on you. They showed that, at the end of that game against the Denver Broncos, Case Keenum was able to make big plays. He had a lot of time in the pocket to make plays and be effective. But the reason why I'm taking the Dolphins is this. You're going cross road. You're going cross country from Oakland to Miami. Miami's a pretty solid, home team. They have the confidence. They have the consistency. And also, I just look at the Raiders, and there's just a part of me with the Raiders that if they can't get a pass rush against this Miami offensive line, I think Tannehill will be able to make more plays. And Derek Carr, with his offensive line going up against guys like Robert Quinn, Cameron Wake, Tarek, hopefully he comes back, Kiko Alonso, I feel like Miami will be able to generate more pressure against the Raiders than the Raiders will against the Dolphins. And I'll trust Ryan Tannehill to play another efficient game to be able to win this game. Would I be surprised if Oakland won the game? No, because Oakland put up a pretty good fight against the Broncos. And you could say that if Case Keenum doesn't have that scramble, the Oakland Raiders are 1-1, and John Gruden gets his first one back as the coach of the Raiders. But with the Dolphins playing as consistent as they've been, to look at the Raiders, knowing what they're lacking on defense right now. The Raiders, what they're lacking on defense right now. I will take the Dolphins to win this game in another solid performance. They are kind of like, to me, becoming the Titans. That, in a way that if they're undefeated, nobody cares, nobody's really impressed by the talent on their roster. But if they keep winning enough games or they keep playing good football, the Dolphins could be a decent, wild card team at least. And with how, New England already has a loss and maybe they can compete, maybe the Dolphins can surprise people and be more competitive in the AFC East than people gave them credit for, like I did earlier this year. But I'm taking Miami here just because I trust the home crowd. I trust the consistency that Dolphins have played by. And with Oakland, it's one of those things where I feel like the Dolphins should be able to, if they're down, be able to make enough hay through the Raider defense to be able to win the game on a last-second field goal or touchdown. So that's why I like Miami here, -3, and Miami straight up. The next game, the Vikings over Buffalo. Let me first start out with Buffalo. Buffalo, Josh Allen did okay. He's not Nathan Peterman, thank God, and he's already proven to be better than Nathan Peterman in one game, even though he lost by 11 points. I thought that, the mistakes were, not good, but it was his first game. But at least the Bills were able to score points, and the Bills' defense was rejuvenated after that point and made some big plays that kept the Bills in the game, or more respectable in the game than they should have been from the week before. Also, with the Bills, another significant thing is LaShawn McCoy's injury. Apparently, he has a rib injury that he knows about now, but nobody knows how severe it is, what exactly happened to his rib. But that is something I would watch out for if you're a fantasy owner of LaShawn McCoy's, to be very mindful of for next week against Minnesota and for the future of the year, depending on how prolonged his injury is. But the reason why I'm taking Minnesota is this. This is the worst time for the Bills to play the Vikings. They are an angry Viking team, knowing that they have got robbed by their kicker again in Daniel Carlson. And Daniel Carlson, it's time for you to go. Just like saying it's time for you to go. Okay, at least with the Browns, right? Or maybe you could say it's a good or bad thing. The Browns have just been bad for 20 years overall. It doesn't matter exactly if it's the kicking or the punting or situations. The Browns fans just accept it. With the Vikings over the last 20 years, it's been almost the same exact story. People can't kick the field goals. They can't. Gary Anderson could not do it. Blair Walsh could not do it. Daniel Carlson cannot do it. And by the way, just for everybody out there, the Packers got robbed of ending the game in regulation due to a bogus roughing call that they called on Clay Matthews. Because apparently they said that Clay Matthews drove Kirk Cousins in the ground. He didn't. It was more just a tackle. But yeah, so there's that going as well. But this Daniel Carlson needs to get cut. And please, I'm asking anybody, the Chargers, any team that is having kicking problems, please sign Dan Bailey. He is out on the street. The second most accurate kicker in NFL history is open on the market, and nobody wants to take him. I don't get it. I do not get it. Because I honestly thought Kai Forbath should have kept the job, and obviously with John Carlson missing, I was affirmed in that. Like, if Kai Forbath was in the game, he makes that field goal, and they win. And, the Vikings, they got a lot of hits on Rodgers, which is pretty impressive. But also they gave some plays to Rodgers' offense, some big touchdowns. So it was kind of a mixed bag. But also Vikings fans can at least be encouraged by Kirk Cousins being able to make a comeback and tie the game to a point of overtime. But he's got to be really upset, just like most of the other players, at the kicker for screwing it up. And with all that being said, Dalvin Cook also left the game with a hamstring injury. I have to take the Vikings here just because they're just clearly the better team. They're motivated. They're angry. They're going to take it out on a Bill team that, even though they've improved from the Week 1 performance, they're still not very good. I can see Josh Allen throwing 2 to 3 interceptions in this game going against his Vikings defense. And I think the Vikings should be able to win this one pretty decisively. But with the 16-point spread, I couldn't do it. Because I think that's way too many points. And the Bills showed enough life that they can compete within 16 points. But I do expect Minnesota to win this one just out of pure anger and rage towards their next opponent, because they know they should really be 2-0 in this division, or 2-0 at least, with a huge win over the Packers at Lambeau to build momentum off of. So that's why I like Buffalo plus 16.5, but Minnesota straight up. Then the next game, the Eagles over Indianapolis. I'm taking Philadelphia here because of one man, Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has returned, and I believe that is the difference in this game for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nick Foles, in his absence, did a decent job. He got the big win over Atlanta, but he couldn't outmatch Ryan Fitzmagic in Tampa Bay. And it was just time that they were expecting him to get cleared. It's week 3. It's a big-time game. It's a big-time moment for him at home to play a Colt team that's basically Andrew Luck or bust. I do want to give Andrew Luck's team a bit of credit, though. They played Washington in the same way, basically, that Arizona played against Washington. And I was genuinely impressed with how Andrew Luck and that team was able to dominate most of that game through their defense and through their offensive line. I think Andrew Luck still needs to work on his turnovers because he did have 2 interceptions, but unfortunately, the Redskins could not capitalize on those. So kudos to Indy there. But that's just, my big thing. If Carson wasn't playing, if it was Nick Foles again, I probably would have taken Andrew Luck because I saw Andrew Luck carry, his team just now to a big win over Washington, who I think is a decent team themselves. But I'm taking Philadelphia here because I trust this defense. I think Carson Wentz can make enough plays with his arm and his legs, again, with the receivers he's going to have in Zach Ertz, Kamar Aiken, Sheldon Gibson. Trying to think of some other receivers, but I think Carson can make some plays with his leg and his arm to help elevate the entire Eagles offense to a point to be effective enough to win this game against Andrew Luck and the Colts, basically with Andrew Luck being by himself. It should be an interesting game. I'm excited to watch it, but I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles here because I trust them, and I think Carson's comeback will rejuvenate that fan base, will rejuvenate that team, and that should be able to do enough to beat the Colts on a Sunday afternoon this coming weekend. So that's why I like the Philadelphia Eagles here -6, and the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. Next game, Green Bay over Washington. This game to me came down to what I saw out of the Redskins. I gotta stop saying that out of the Redskins last week. I thought the Redskins, after having such a solid, fundamental, consistent performance against the Arizona Cardinals, the Redskins played like the Redskins usually do, or what people would think of Alex Smith. Alex Smith did not have as good a game. Adrian Peterson only ran for about 20 yards. Jordan Reed looked non-existent, and the Colts offense was shredding the Redskins defense from back to forth, especially with guys like T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron having such big games. And, that's what I'm saying, is that, look, do I think the Packers, have a better kind of overall defensive unit? No, but they have the better quarterback, and they're a better team together. And I'm just going to keep going with Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers, with what he's done, the momentum he has, the drive he has to keep playing on this injury, which I heard from somebody could take about 2 weeks to recover from, which is huge. It would take 2 months to recover fully from this injury. Though I commend Aaron for playing through it because his teammates need him, and with how that tie ended up happening, all these games are going to be significantly important now because they need to just try to keep holding pace with the Vikings, who, if the Packers lose, they're not only down now half a game, they are now down a game and a half, which might be huge by the end of the year. But I'm taking Green Bay here in a decent win because I'll trust Rodgers again. He'll be in Lambeau. It's not supposed to be that bad weather-wise, and I just don't see the Redskins with Jay Gruden being effective enough against this Green Bay team to win the game. I think Rodgers will be too much, and I think Alexander and King can do enough defensively to limit Alex Smith's offense, and that should be enough for them to win the game. So that's why I like Green Bay here -3 and Green Bay straight up. The next game, the Bengals over Carolina. This is one of my upset picks of the week. The reason why I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals have been a solid football team the last 2 weeks of the season. They put up 34 points in each of their games. Andy Dalton has, I believe, about 4 touchdowns. Or he has about 5 or 6 touchdowns, 2-3 interceptions. AJ Green had a monster 3 touchdown game. It's the first time he scored 3 touchdowns in a half in his career, so good for him. I do think the Joe Mixon injury will be a bit significant because they really don't have anybody else besides Giovanni Bernard to take that starting workload. But with what I've seen out of Joe Mixon, I can see why the Bengals drafted him, how effective a running back he can be. And when being out for 2 to 3 weeks, that could be a significant blow for the Bengals in trying to maintain and control the clock against the Carolina Panthers. And this is tough because, again, Carolina, this is one of those teams, again, they are a talented football team that seems to overachieve with the talent they have. I do feel bad for Cam because he did get cheap shotted by the one Falcon safety. But I'm taking the Bengals here because I've seen the Bengals play 2 games of football. They've been the most consistent offense, consistent defense, both on the road and at home. And I just can't take the Panthers because Greg Olson's out. Trey Turner's out of an injury. They have some other, knick-knack injuries. Cam's kind of, coming off of something. And McCaffrey really can't do anything. And I'm just going to trust that with the Bengals that they have enough talent and they have, enough confidence and momentum, especially beating their division rivals on Thursday Night Football the way they did, scoring 28 points within the first 17 minutes of the game. And I'm hoping that carries over against Carolina. Carolina, this is a big game for them. They are trying to maintain with the Bucs at this point, and to lose to Matt Ryan and Andy Dalton in back-to-back weeks, that's got to be a little bit tough for him, especially losing to a guy like Andy Dalton. So that's why I like Cincinnati here +3, but in Cincinnati straight up. The next game, the Jaguars over Tennessee. I am taking the Jacksonville Jaguars because I've seen the Jaguars play, most of their games in this new Saxonville era. That game against the Patriots yesterday was the most complete game the Jags had played from top to bottom, and Blake Bortles' best career game. By far. 4 TDs, 1 interception. He threw for about 320 yards, and he was just making big third down after big third down, primarily through his arm, to be able to pull out this W for the Jags in their biggest game, probably since the AFC Championship game in 1999. But the reason why I am taking the Titans against the spread is the basic principle of I don't have faith in the Jags. It's kind of like one of those things with what you saw out of the Jets, and I'm going to use that same principle here. I do think the Jags have enough talent and enough confidence, especially with Blaine Gabbert possibly starting, to be able to win. But I can definitely see the Titans in this game. Remember, this was a team that last year swept both of them, which I think is huge. But I am looking at this, Jacksonville, Tennessee game and telling you to take the Titans with the points just because I don't know what Jacksonville will show up. I don't know if good Blake Bortles will show up. I don't know if bad Blake Bortles will show up. But I do expect with the Titans how much pressure they got against the Texans offensive line, knowing that Cam Robinson is now down for the year with a torn ACL in his left knee. I think the Titans can generate enough pressure to make Blake Bortles uncomfortable and make him cause mistakes, which could keep the Titans within that 6 points for the game. But with Marcus Mariota being out, Delaney Walker being out for the year, Corey Davis still not looking that effective, I'm going to take the Jags here because I feel like they can fundamentally hold on to, along with the motivation of last year, getting swept by the Titans. They're motivated to beat them and show that, they don't have their number. It should be a fun game. I'm interested in it because, these are two decent teams, and especially with Jacksonville trying to ascend the ladder. If they can beat the Titans, go to 3-0, have that nice little spot there, that is a real serious contender in the AFC, and probably right now, or if they win this Sunday, they'll be the second best team in the AFC behind the New England Patriots, in my opinion. So that's why I like Tennessee here +6.5, but Jacksonville straight up. The next game, Baltimore over the Broncos. This is one of those games where, for me as a Ravens fan, Case Keenum is the middle spectrum between Ben Roethlisberger and then some, below average from like Tom Brady and Nathan Peterman. Case Keenum falls in that middle range for me. And I feel like with how the Broncos have been playing, job well done for them being 2-0. They were 2-0 last year, I believe, in kind of a close, weird way. So I believe that, with the Ravens, of how Case Keenum's played, I believe we can cause 1 or 2 turnovers, which we can make points, and that'll be the difference in the game. But I'd be surprised if Denver won. Absolutely not. I think Denver is a really solid defensive unit from their edges to their middles. The secondary is a little bit weak. I know you have Chris Harris Jr. back there supporting in a good way, and you have Pac-Man back there too. I just think for the Ravens, this is a home game. It's a motivating home game, knowing how tough it was to lose in Cincinnati on Thursday night. But with the Broncos here, I am taking them to lose this game just because I feel also that the Ravens have a more complete offense with John Brown, Willie Snead, and Michael Crabtree in their offense. I feel that those guys are more complete, and I feel like Joe Flacco's been playing at a better level than Case Keenum has through the first 2 weeks. I know Case Keenum has the better record, but also Case Keenum he also does have 4 interceptions, which is one of the tops in the league for that position. Should be a fun game. I think it's going to be hard and defensive, but I'm going to take the Ravens here just because I feel like their offense should be able to do enough against this Broncos defense to win the game, and our defense should be able to stop Case Keenum by making him have one mistake, so he would lose so the Broncos could lose that way. So this is why I like Denver here +5, but the Ravens straight up. The next game, the Texans over New York. This is one of those things where the Texans, though they haven't looked perfect, I feel like they've been a better team than the Giants. The Giants, with all that money into Nate Solder, with all that money into Will Hernandez, with all that money into Odell Beckham, with all that money into Saquon Barkley, and with Eli Manning, they're still playing. That offense still looks just as bad as it did last year, which is amazing, knowing what improvements they have, knowing what arsenal they have. And the problem was, again, it was the offensive line. Eric Flowers, who is the worst right tackle and the worst tackle in football, still has a job for the team. And it's almost just like every week he just can't even hold anybody. He can't be effective. And that affects the entire line that the Giants' offensive players are playing behind. And also, the Cowboys were able to run the ball effectively and decently in spurts. And just looking at Houston, I feel like Houston, look, they're motivated. They know they had the lead against the Titans, and they almost could have beaten the Patriots, almost had a chance to, but they didn't. And they're playing a Giant team right now that honestly, is becoming more of the Jets, and the Jets are becoming more of the Giants, because I'd rather see Sam Darnold play football than Eli Manning in this crew, offensively and defensively for the Giants. And the Pat Shurmur experience is not working still. And with that being said, of how weak they looked offensively, I'm going to take the Texans here because I feel like the Texans can do just as well as the Cowboys, if not better, causing the Texans to be able to win the game in a close game, maybe off a last-second touchdown or field goal by Deshaun Watson. Maybe that moment right there can spark Deshaun Watson going into, the rest of the year to be a rising star quarterback in the NFL scene. So that's why I like Houston here -6 and Houston straight up. The next game, the Battle of Los Angeles, when the Chargers are going to the Rams. I'm taking the Rams here because even though the Chargers are decent at everything they do, the Rams are really great at basically everything they do from top to bottom. It was actually quite amazing seeing Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley now has 30 rushing touchdowns. He's now only the third Ram with 30 rushing touchdowns in their Rams career, joining Eric Dickerson and I believe Marshall Faulk as the other three Rams running backs that have scored 30 touchdowns with the team. And I look at the Rams as just, again, they're the second best team in the NFL, in my opinion, behind the Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to say Jacksonville, if you want to say whoever. And that'd be great for anybody out there. If you have any top 10 suggestions or any top 10 ideas out there, let me know. That'd be great. But in this Chargers, Rams game, I am taking the Rams because I feel like, again, the Rams are just better at everything than the Chargers, and I feel like the Chargers are trying to aspire to be the Rams. They put up 35 points on the Arizona Cardinals, and it looked like nothing to them. Like I said, Todd Gurley had 3 touchdowns. Jared Goff had 340 yards. When Tyler Higbee's catching touchdowns, and that's how much you're not caring, that's a big thing on how good you are. Tyler Higbee, the second string tight end that nobody really knows about, can have a big touchdown, and that helps them, win the game in a decisive manner. Do I think the Chargers, can surprise people? Absolutely, but with no Joey Bosa probably out till October, of how the Rams secondary can match up against Keenan and Mike, and how the Rams can shut down Melvin Gordon, I think it's going to be a tough day for the LA Chargers to play well. And I feel like, again, the Rams are just clicking on all cylinders. As long as they keep winning like this or keep winning effectively, nobody's going to care what they do or nobody's going to care about the attention they bring because all they're doing is trying to win to get to the Super Bowl, which is a very real possibility. So that's why I like the LA Rams are -6.5 and the LA Rams straight up. The next game, Chicago over Arizona. Sam Bradford. That's all you need to know, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bradford, through 2 games, has thrown 231 yards. He's thrown about 240 yards through 2 games. He has no touchdowns and 2 picks. And the man is that awful. He has David Johnson, who just 2 years ago in the 2016 year set the NFL record or had a 20 touchdown season, and everybody loved him in fantasy. Right? Now, the Cardinals, knowing that or knowing his potential, gave him a $39 million contract. Yesterday, he had 14 touches for 51 yards. Really? People, this is why I always tell you, about contracts or all that. Play the market. David Johnson's proving to everybody. You could say some of it's offensive line. Okay, some of that is true. But he's not worth that. 51 yards? I know what you're going to say. Well, you got your butt kicked by the Rams. Yeah, but you know what? You're the $13 million man. If you're that good, you should get about 60, 70 yards on your own if you're that good. So that's what I'm saying is that, this whole Cardinal experiment, the Cardinal sin's over. And I'll mention it again. Sam Bradford is an absolute disaster, and I would start Josh Rosen this week. I've seen enough. The fact that they've only put up 3 points in their first 2 games, I know all right, the Rams thing, I'll give you a pass. But Washington, you can't explain that. You can't explain how the Colts, with the limited defenders they had, and the Cardinals have way better defenders basically all across the board, could hold the Redskins to 9 points, where that team with their defenders can only hold you to 6. Okay, that's the one that you can't explain. But, yeah, I would start Josh Rosen. Sam Bradford is an embarrassment to the National Football League. He is the exact reason, of just throwing a football. That's all Sam Bradford has shown to people for years, that he has an arm and he can throw a football. That's it. He has an arm and he can throw a football. That's it. And people just love that. They just see the ball go in the air and go, oh, that was a pretty spiral. He can play. Here's $20 million. The Eagles, here's $36 million. He got $56 million in new money, and he's 18-30, 18-34 and 1. He's like 21 and 46 and 1 and something like that. He's just horrible. He's just a horrible quarterback that I don't need to see anymore. They're probably going to play him through at least the bye week or maybe through Chicago, so they don't have to do anything. But the Cardinals really do need to try to have Josh Rosen start. Josh Rosen may not be any better this year. He may get hurt with his injury history, but it's enough of Sam Bradford. And that's why I'm taking the Bears. That's it. The Bears, look, they have a really good defense. Trubisky looks effective. Matt Nagy's doing a really good job. And that's the thing. They look more effective. They should be able to win tonight. And going against a Cardinal team that, just looks destitute and barren, barren like the Arizona desert, that Bears team should be able to win. Because their quarterback looks more competent, their offense looks more competent, and the defense is going to be so hard, especially with Khalil Mack trying to run through to get to Sam Bradford. That's too much of a burden for the Cardinals to bear, in my opinion. So that's why I like Chicago here, -4, and Chicago straight up. The next game, Dallas over Seattle. This is an upset here because I've seen the Dallas Cowboys defense. It is pretty good. Through 2 games, 14.5 points per game. That is pretty good. Especially with all the turnover they have, especially with all the turnover and turmoil they've had. I'm going to trust the Dallas Cowboys here, especially against Seattle defense, that tonight they do not have Bobby Wagner, they do not have KJ Wright, they do not have Doug Baldwin. This is a depleted Seattle team. The Dallas Cowboys just 4 years ago were able to go into Seattle and win. And both these teams are drastically different from the last time before. But with that being said, I'm going to trust the Cowboys here to make enough defensive plays going up against the Seattle offensive line and to run the ball decently enough with Zeke, be able to eke out a tough win in a very tough place to play. It'll be close, and I would not be surprised if Seattle won this game. But what I've seen out of Dallas, how they've been able to run the ball, how efficient Dak can be, that combination should be enough if the Cowboys defense can get pressure on Wilson like it did against Eli Manning, to be able to win the game just from the rest of Wilson not being able to make plays, and Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott making enough plays to win this game for the Dallas Cowboys. That's why I like Dallas here +3 and Dallas straight up. The next game, New England over the Lions. This is a game where it's the Patriots. Look, Tom Brady was playing in the hottest game of his career. It was the hottest game on record for the Patriots. It was 97 degrees when they started kickoff. They are now going back into an indoor stadium in Detroit. And the great thing about the Patriots, and this is one of my favorite stats, the Patriots haven't lost back-to-back games since 2012 12. Like, they've gone like 5 or 6 straight years without, without losing back-to-back games. This is another Belichick assistant type aspect where, Belichick's assistants have done horribly against him as the head coach. The last one I think I remember who won was McDaniels in 2009. And if somebody could tell me somebody else that won, that'd be great. But yeah, I think the last assistant that did beat him was McDaniels. But that was a one-time wonder in that aspect. But I'm taking the New England Patriots here because it's a fundamental, consistent team. They're going to bounce back from Jacksonville. The Lions don't nearly have as talented a defense as the Jaguars have. They don't have to worry about it. It's a Belichick assistant, so Bill knows what everything Matt knows, but Matt doesn't know everything that Bill knows. And it's just one of those aspects of where, look, the Lions, I'll give them credit. They look more respectable, and they probably should have stolen a win over the Niners. But they didn't. They weren't able to capitalize. They left huge holes through the running game, so I could hopefully expect Burkhead and James White to have big games to be effective. And it's just one of those things. It's a primetime game that you get relaxed. The last time they were in primetime, they looked absolutely pathetic against the Jets. If they could look that way against the Jets, they definitely could certainly look that way against the Patriots. So that's why I like the New England Patriots here, minus 6.5, and New England straight up. And finally, Tampa Bay over Pittsburgh. This is a thing where I believe Ryan Fitzpatrick or Ryan Fitzmagic has won this job. He is the third quarterback in NFL history to start the first 2 games of the year with 400 yards and 3 passing touchdowns in the first 2 games. And he's the first quarterback in NFL history to have 400 yards and 4 passing touchdowns in each of the first 2 games ever. So good. Kudos to Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's played incredible football through the first 2 games, and it's just something where, again, this is a thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick that doesn't make any sense. If you just tell him to play football, if you just tell him, hey, you're not the starter, you're just here to play, we can do that. And he could do that at a very good level. He just beat 2 playoff teams the year before, and he's, like I said, I'm picking him to win 3 straight games against 3 straight playoff teams from the year before. But that's the thing. I feel like the Bucs defense, they did have a couple injuries that were nicking him a little bit, which would be tough. But I like the Bucs here because I think that they have a solid defense. It's a road game for Pittsburgh, and they've always somehow seemed to struggle in these kind of games against Tampa and Chicago. Like I remember Tampa just a few years ago. Mike Glennon beat them. Mike Glennon beat them Chicago on the road. They lost to Miami in a tough game in the heat. And just with Pittsburgh's dysfunction, I think, Le'Veon Bell is a significant factor in why they're not playing well. But also, there's other factors to me, such as the Pittsburgh defense. I think that is an underrated factor because, again, they gave up 42 points to Patrick Mahomes. He threw 6 touchdowns on them. This is the worst start the Steelers had since 2012. And Patrick Mahomes looked like Big Ben, where Big Ben had to throw 60 times to get the 400 yards. And they only ran the ball about 4 times for 17 yards. So there really wasn't that great of a balance there. And with all this dysfunction with Le'Veon, the offensive line, not having Shazier, now Antonio Brown yelling, clapping back at fans for wanting to trade and saying, that kind of stuff. I just feel the dysfunction, as long as Le'Veon's not going to be there, and I think he's going to continue going on for the next several weeks, this Steeler team should be the underdog in most of their games, just from what I've seen out of them. They're just not right, and from what I've seen out of Tampa, they're firing at all cylinders. They've been consistent. They've shown that, they can do this, with the offensive weapons they have. Hopefully Jackson can stay, non-concussion or non-shoulder injury for this week. And I think the Bucs should be able to get a big win. So that's why I like Tampa Bay here, plus 2.5, and Tampa Bay straight up. So that's it. So good luck to all the players, coaches, teams, fellow fantasy football players, and fellow prognosticators all across the YouTube community, all across the country, all across the world, anybody that's picking games, good luck to you. I hope everybody does well, and I hope I can bounce back personally myself. And also, please check out the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. There are plenty of great people like Gino Visconti, Half Moon's Picks, Andrew Warren, Bridgewater's Finest, Stuart Madison, Geo Knows, Billy B, Hatbox, Logan Schiff, Keith Bailey, all those guys and gals that make these videos just like I do. Please check them out and see if your picks compare to theirs or mine, and see how you do. And we'd love for other people to come in and just talk with us, because it's always fun when we do and talk football. So that's it. So until next week, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.